I jokingly shouted, "Who will marry me?" Then the alien vampire queen appeared. The spaceport was alive with noise and color, a bustling junction where hundreds of species and ships passed through every hour. Humans were a small presence among the alien crowds, and he felt it. He stood on the observation terrace, leaning against the railing, watching the landing pads below. Ships of every imaginable shape descended, their engines humming, glowing streaks marking their paths. He sighed, feeling a strange mix of boredom and awe. He had been traveling for months, moving from one star system to another, always passing through, never really feeling at home anywhere. He shook his head and tried to clear the emptiness that pressed at the edges of his mind. Looking down at the crowd, he noticed the alien species mingling with each other. Tall, thin ones with translucent skin, winged beings whose feathers shimmered under the artificial light, and small creatures that rolled on wheels instead of walking. The variety was mesmerizing, yet it also made him feel small, insignificant in the vast galaxy. A laugh escaped him. It was a hollow laugh, more for himself than anyone else. Then, without thinking, he raised his voice and jokingly shouted, "Who will marry me?" The words echoed across the terrace, bouncing off the high metal walls and reflecting faintly in the glass windows of the nearby terminals. He immediately regretted it, feeling foolish. He imagined the aliens below pausing for a moment, thinking he was mad. He chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck. Of course, nobody would answer. It was a joke. Just a silly human joke in a galaxy full of beings who didn't even understand humor the same way he did. But somewhere, far beyond the crowded spaceport, his words traveled in ways he could not imagine. A sleek black ship drifted silently in orbit above the planet, its surface absorbing the light like polished onyx. Inside, the air shimmered with a strange energy. The ship's captain, or rather the occupant who held all authority within, tilted her head as she heard the faint vibrations of his voice carried across space. Her eyes, glowing faintly red, narrowed with interest. A human had spoken across the void, and not just any human, but one who seemed bold, curious, amusing. He had no idea that he had just caught the attention of a being centuries older than any human could imagine. The vampire queen, ruler of her species, moved with deliberate grace toward the observation window. Her long robes flowed behind her like liquid shadow, and her pale skin seemed almost to shine in contrast with the darkness around her. She did not smile, but there was a spark of amusement in her eyes. Back at the spaceport, the human sighed again, this time a little louder. He leaned on the railing, watching as a ship landed with a thud on one of the pads below. The crowd swarmed around the entry ramp, unloading passengers and cargo. He noticed their strange rituals of greeting, their gestures and words, and he felt a familiar pang of isolation. Being human in a galaxy so vast was both thrilling and exhausting. Then, without warning, she appeared. At first, he thought he was seeing things. A woman stepped off one of the ships on the pad, but there was something unreal about her. Her presence made people pause, conversations faltered. Aliens turned to look at her as she walked, her every step commanding attention without effort. She was tall, taller than most humans, with long flowing hair that shimmered under the lights, not quite black, not quite deep purple. Her eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the artificial lights, and her skin was pale, almost like polished ivory. He froze. His heart raced, and he stumbled backward slightly against the railing. This was no ordinary visitor. Every instinct in his body told him to run, yet curiosity rooted him in place. She approached, her movements fluid, confident, and completely foreign. The crowd instinctively gave her space, forming a path she did not ask for. When she stopped before him, she tilted her head slightly, observing him with those glowing eyes. He could feel her gaze like a physical weight, studying him in a way that made him feel both exposed and seen. She did not speak immediately. Instead, she extended a hand slowly, deliberately, as if testing the air between them. "I heard your voice," she said finally, her tone low and smooth, carrying an accent that was impossible for him to identify. "You called out across the stars. Why?" He blinked, unable to find words. His mind scrambled. Was she serious? Did she mean she actually heard him? Did she understand he had been joking? He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. He cleared his throat, forcing a laugh. I was just joking." Just shouting into the crowd. Her eyes glimmered like liquid light. "A joke," she repeated. There was no mockery in her tone, only curiosity. "Few humans speak so boldly." He managed a shaky laugh. "Well, I guess I'm bold in my own way." The queen's lips curved slightly upward, almost imperceptibly. She tilted her head again, studying him as though weighing his worth. Bold, yes, curious, not entirely foolish, that is interesting. He swallowed hard. The words were strange, but not threatening. Still, he could feel the energy around her, the quiet power that seemed to ripple through the air. He realized that this being could, with ease, change the course of his life in a single thought. And yet, she simply regarded him with what he could only call fascination. Do you want to come aboard my ship?" she asked suddenly, almost casually. His heart skipped a beat. Me aboard your ship?" "Yes." Her voice was calm, commanding, but not unkind. "I am curious. Humans are rare in these parts. You have my attention." He hesitated. His mind raced. This could be dangerous, but there was something in the way she moved, the way she spoke, that made fear feel manageable. He found himself nodding slowly. "Okay, I'll come." The queen's smile widened faintly. "Good, come." Moments later, he followed her down the crowded landing pad, past aliens who stared openly at the unusual pair, and up the ramp of her ship. The interior was unlike anything he had ever seen. The walls seemed alive, faintly glowing with flowing patterns of light that shifted and pulsed. The air was cool, carrying a scent he could not name, a mixture of metal, ozone, and something faintly sweet. He walked slowly, taking in every detail. The floor reflected his image perfectly, but the reflection shimmered slightly, as if the surface could almost ripple like water. The corridors curved smoothly, without sharp angles, and the lighting was soft but bright enough to reveal everything clearly. He felt like he had stepped into a world not meant for humans. The queen moved ahead of him, her posture perfect, her robes whispering against the floor. She did not look back to see if he was following, yet he felt no urge to rush. Her confidence was magnetic, and for the first time in a long while, he felt small in a good way, small but capable of something more than ordinary. Finally, they reached a room at the heart of the ship. It was large and open, with a high ceiling that curved like the inside of a shell. Strange lights floated in midair, casting colors that changed from deep blue to violet to gold. He paused at the threshold, unsure if he was allowed to enter. "You may come in," she said softly. He stepped inside. The queen turned to face him fully now, and he noticed how her glowing eyes seemed to flicker with amusement and interest. "Humans are strange," she said. "You shout into the void, and yet you are not afraid when the void answers." He chuckled nervously. "Well, I guess I never expected anyone to answer." "And yet," she said, stepping closer, "someone did, I did." He swallowed hard. He didn't know what to say. He wanted to make a joke, but nothing felt appropriate. He realized he had never met anyone like her. Not in his life on Earth, not among the humans he knew, and certainly not in the stars he had traveled. She was an enigma, a being of power and grace, and somehow, in a way he could not explain, she had made him feel seen. The queen studied him for a long moment, then finally spoke. "Stay here, learn, observe, perhaps you will amuse me further." He nodded, still unsure what that meant. But as she turned and moved to a large window overlooking the planet below, he followed, curious and cautious in equal measure. Outside, the city lights shimmered like a field of stars, and the bustling life of the spaceport looked tiny from this height. For the first time in a long while, he felt something he had not felt in years: possibility. The human and the vampire queen stood side by side, one small, one imposing, looking down at a galaxy full of life and adventure. He didn't know what the future would hold, but he knew one thing: his joke had changed everything. And somehow, he had a feeling that this was only the beginning. The interior of the Vampire Queen's ship was like nothing he had ever imagined. The walls shimmered with colors that seemed to flow like water, and soft, ambient lights highlighted shapes that were strange but beautiful. The floor beneath his feet was smooth, reflecting the faint glow from the walls, and the ceiling arched high above, giving the room a feeling of openness despite the ship's compact size. The air smelled faintly of something metallic and sweet at the same time, a scent that was oddly calming. He followed the queen through a series of winding corridors, each turn revealing something new. Some rooms were filled with holographic maps of star systems, their planets spinning slowly in midair. Others contained objects that looked like art but moved like living creatures. He felt like a child in a museum, except everything here was alive. The queen walked with a purpose, her robes flowing behind her as if the floor itself welcomed her steps. She did not look at him, but he could sense her eyes on him, studying him, measuring him. He tried to keep his expression calm, though his heart was racing. He had never been this close to someone so powerful before, and yet, despite her presence, he felt an odd sense of safety. Finally, they arrived in a large room at the center of the ship. The room was circular, with a high ceiling, and in the middle floated a glowing platform that seemed to respond to their movements. The Queen stopped in front of it, turning to face him fully. Her eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the platform's light. "This is where we will begin," she said, her voice calm and deliberate. "You will learn more about me and I will learn about you. Do you understand?" He nodded, trying to steady his voice. "Yes, I think so." "Good," she replied. "But first you must understand that this ship is more than it seems. It is alive in ways you may not comprehend. Every decision, every action you take here will be noticed. Do not take it lightly." He swallowed, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. I understand." The Queen stepped onto the floating platform, and a soft hum filled the room. Holographic shapes appeared around them, strange geometric patterns that twisted and turned in midair. They glowed with colors he had never seen before, shifting from deep blues to greens and purples. "This is a simulation," she explained. "It will test your mind, your courage, and your creativity. If you can navigate it successfully, you will earn my respect and perhaps more." He blinked. "More?" The Queen's lips curved into a faint smile. "Perhaps. For now, focus on the task." Taking a deep breath, he stepped onto the platform. The moment his feet touched it, the room transformed. The walls and ceiling disappeared, replaced by a vast landscape of alien terrain. Towering crystal structures rose from the ground, glowing softly. Rivers of light flowed between them, and strange creatures moved in the distance, neither threatening nor friendly. He took a cautious step forward, feeling the platform adjust beneath him. It was like walking on solid ground, but with a slight, almost imperceptible sway. He realized the platform was responding to his movements, guiding him through the simulation. The Queen's voice echoed in his mind, calm and steady. "Remember, this is not a test of strength. It is a test of thought, creativity, and heart. Observe carefully, consider your choices, act wisely." He nodded to himself and moved forward. The crystal towers seemed to shift as he approached, forming paths and obstacles that were not there before. He had to think quickly, using both logic and intuition to find his way. Sometimes he would step forward, only to find a barrier had appeared. At other times, a path would open unexpectedly, as if the simulation was reacting to his willingness to try. As he navigated the landscape, he noticed a small creature trapped between two glowing barriers. It looked fragile, with delicate wings and a luminescent body. He knelt down, studying it. The barriers were not solid, but they required precise timing to pass through. He carefully moved his hands, guiding the creature step by step until it was free. It fluttered around him before flying off, leaving a faint trail of sparkling light in its wake. The Queen's voice came again. "Clever, compassionate, that is unusual for a human." He paused, surprised. You noticed?" "Yes," she replied simply. "I notice everything. That small act shows wisdom and kindness. Both are rare and valuable." He continued through the simulation, encountering more challenges that required him to think creatively rather than fight. Some puzzles involved moving light beams to unlock paths. Others required him to communicate with the holographic creatures in ways he barely understood. Each time he felt a growing sense of confidence. He was not just surviving the simulation, he was excelling. The Queen observed silently, her eyes glowing faintly as she watched him navigate each challenge. She did not interfere, but her presence was undeniable. It was as if the entire simulation was alive, reacting to both of them. He could feel her approval building with each success, though she did not speak it aloud. Hours seemed to pass in what felt like minutes. He lost track of time as he immersed himself in the strange world. Each challenge was different, more complex than the last, and he found himself relying on instinct as much as logic. The simulation was teaching him not only about the ship but about himself, his patience, his creativity, and his courage. Finally, he reached the last part of the simulation. A large crystal structure rose before him, glowing brighter than any he had seen. At its base was a puzzle unlike the others, a combination of shapes, lights, and symbols that seemed to shift and move independently. He studied it carefully, realizing that brute force would achieve nothing. He had to understand the pattern, anticipate the movements, and act with precision. He took a deep breath, focusing. Slowly, methodically, he moved the shapes into place, adjusting for the shifting patterns. Sweat formed on his brow, but he did not give up. He felt a strange rhythm in the puzzle, a pattern that became clearer with each attempt. Finally, with one careful adjustment, the final piece fell into place. The crystal structure glowed brighter still, and a soft chime echoed through the simulation. The landscape dissolved around him, returning him to the central room of the ship. The Queen was standing on the platform, her eyes glowing with a mixture of amusement and approval. She regarded him silently for a moment, as if weighing his performance. "Impressive," she said at last. "You have navigated the simulation with skill and creativity. More importantly, you have shown courage, patience, and compassion. You are unusual for a human." He felt a rush of pride and relief. "Thank you, I didn't think I could do it." "You did," she replied simply, "and in doing so, you have earned my respect." He smiled, feeling a connection growing between them. There was no pressure, no expectation, only acknowledgement. For the first time since he had shouted into the crowd at the spaceport, he felt seen, understood, and valued. The Queen moved closer, her presence commanding yet gentle. "You have potential," she said. "Potential that most humans never realize. The galaxy is vast, and few humans can adapt and succeed in ways you have already demonstrated. This is rare, and it is remarkable." He laughed softly, almost in disbelief. "I never thought my joke would lead to this. I never imagined I would be here learning from you." The Queen's lips curved into a faint smile. "Few humans are brave enough to step into the unknown, to face challenges without fear. You are one of them. That is why I chose to notice you. That is why you are here." He felt a warmth in his chest, a sense of pride mixed with awe. He realized that this was only the beginning. The Queen's ship was more than a vessel. It was a gateway to knowledge, adventure, and understanding that he had never experienced before. And now he was part of it. They spent the rest of the day exploring other parts of the ship. The Queen showed him rooms filled with holographic libraries, archives of alien history, and star charts that stretched across galaxies. She demonstrated the ship's capabilities, from navigation through dangerous star systems to communication with distant civilizations. He absorbed everything eagerly, asking questions and marveling at the technology and wisdom she possessed. Through it all, the Queen watched him with interest, occasionally offering guidance or correction. Her presence was both commanding and supportive, creating an environment where he could learn without fear and grow without pressure. As the artificial day inside the ship drew to a close, they reached a window that looked out over the planet below. The spaceport glowed like a sea of tiny stars, and the bustling life of the city continued far below. He stood beside the Queen, feeling a sense of wonder he had never known before. "You have done well today," she said softly. "Rest now. Tomorrow we will begin new lessons, new challenges. But remember this, the galaxy is vast and knowledge is your greatest tool. Courage and kindness are your greatest weapons. Do not forget them." He nodded, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "I won't forget." The Queen turned away from the window, moving toward her private quarters. "Good. Sleep well, human. Tomorrow the adventure continues." He remained at the window a moment longer, gazing down at the tiny lights of the city, feeling the weight and possibility of the galaxy stretching out before him. For the first time in a long while, he felt that he belonged somewhere, not just as a visitor, but as someone capable of making a difference. The stars above twinkled faintly, as if acknowledging his presence. Somewhere in the vast galaxy, a joke shouted in a moment of boredom had led him here. And now, the adventure had truly begun. The morning on the ship came with a soft hum, lights shifting gently to mimic sunrise. He woke in the guest quarters the Queen had prepared for him, a room that felt both luxurious and alien. The walls glowed faintly, reacting to his presence, and the bed was soft enough to feel like a cloud. For a moment, he simply lay there, letting the wonder of the previous day settle in. He had faced the Queen's simulation, proven himself in ways he had never thought possible, and survived the strange, shifting world of her ship. He stretched and got up, still feeling a bit nervous about what the day would bring. The Queen had promised new lessons, new challenges, and while he felt more confident than yesterday, the thought of learning more about her world both excited and intimidated him. He dressed quickly, careful not to make noise, and left the room. The corridors of the ship were quiet, almost serene, though the soft hum of the engines reminded him they were moving through the vastness of space. When he reached the main observation room, the Queen was already there, standing near a large holographic map that displayed countless star systems, planets, and strange cosmic phenomena. She turned as he entered, her eyes glowing faintly. "You are early," she observed, her tone calm but precise. "Good, eager humans often show promise." He bowed slightly, feeling a mix of pride and nervousness. I want to learn as much as I can." "Then you will," she replied, "but knowledge without understanding is useless. Today, we will focus on observation and intuition. The galaxy is full of dangers, not all of them physical. Sometimes, understanding is your greatest weapon." He nodded, following her gaze to the holographic map. Streams of light represented the movement of ships and signals across the galaxy. "What are those?" he asked, pointing to the flowing lines of blue and green. "Trade routes," she explained. "Signals, paths that civilizations take. They appear simple, but each line represents countless decisions, risks, and strategies. Observing patterns, noticing anomalies, predicting outcomes, this is the skill you must learn." He leaned closer, fascinated. The lights moved constantly, shifting with the flow of commerce, diplomacy, and communication. It was like watching a living organism, a web of life stretching across the stars. "It's incredible," he breathed. "It's like seeing the galaxy itself breathe." The Queen's lips curved slightly. "A good observation. Humans often overlook the patterns because they are distracted by immediate concerns. You notice them. That is why you are here." She moved to a control panel, pressing a sequence of buttons. The holographic map shifted, zooming in on a smaller system. A planet appeared, its surface detailed with cities, rivers, and strange, glowing structures. "This system is newly discovered by human explorers," she said. "You will analyze it. Determine risks, opportunities, and possible strategies for interaction. Your success here will show your ability to think beyond your own experience." He stepped closer, eyes scanning the details. The cities were unlike anything he had seen, geometric patterns that were precise yet beautiful, glowing pathways connecting structures that seemed to float above the ground. Rivers shimmered like liquid light, and strange creatures moved across the landscape. He felt overwhelmed but also exhilarated. This was not a game. This was real, a test of his mind and perception. He began analyzing the system, considering each detail carefully. The cities seemed organized but flexible, their structures adapting to the environment. The rivers provided resources, but they also created natural barriers that could serve as defense. The creatures, though not hostile, could be unpredictable. He took notes, mentally simulating interactions, possible outcomes, and challenges. The Queen observed silently, her glowing eyes fixed on him. She did not intervene, but he could feel her presence guiding him, testing him without interference. Each correct insight, each clever deduction was met with a faint, approving glance. Hours passed as he worked through the analysis. At times, he felt frustrated, struggling to understand alien logic and patterns. But he persisted, using both human intuition and careful observation to make sense of the complex system. Slowly, the picture became clear. He began to see patterns, predict outcomes, and identify opportunities that were not immediately obvious. Finally, he stepped back, satisfied with his analysis. The Queen's eyes glowed brighter. "Well done," she said. "You have not only understood the system, but you have anticipated outcomes that even some experienced explorers would overlook. Your mind is unusual." He smiled, feeling a surge of pride. "Thank you. I tried to think beyond what I already knew." "Exactly," she replied. "That is the essence of survival, of success, in a galaxy so vast and varied. Humans often rely on instinct alone. You combine instinct with observation. That is rare." He felt a warmth in his chest. The Queen's praise was not empty. It was earned, and it meant something. He had never been recognized in this way before, not for intelligence, not for creativity, not for courage. Here, among the stars, his abilities mattered. After a short break, she led him to another part of the ship, a training area filled with holographic constructs. The Queen explained that they would simulate situations requiring quick thinking and moral choices, testing not only his intelligence but his heart. The first scenario placed him on a simulated planet under threat of a natural disaster. Cities were in danger, and he had to determine how to evacuate the inhabitants safely. He worked quickly, using the holographic tools to create safe paths, guide citizens, and allocate resources efficiently. He felt a rush of exhilaration as he solved each challenge, balancing urgency with care. Next, he faced a scenario involving communication with an alien species. The simulation presented language barriers, cultural differences, and conflicting interests. He listened carefully, observed gestures, and used logic and empathy to mediate a peaceful solution. The Queen watched closely, her eyes glowing faintly, clearly impressed with his approach. Hours turned into what felt like minutes. He lost track of time entirely, absorbed in the challenges. Each success brought a sense of accomplishment, each failure taught him something new. The Queen's guidance was subtle but effective, pushing him to think deeper, act wisely, and trust both his mind and his instincts. Finally, they reached the last scenario of the day. It was different from the others, no clear rules, no instructions, only a situation that required creativity and courage. A small alien colony was isolated, facing unknown threats. The simulation presented obstacles that shifted constantly, testing his ability to adapt. He paused, taking a deep breath. He studied the environment carefully, observing the creatures, the landscape, and the glowing structures. He realized that brute force would achieve nothing. He had to understand the system as a whole, anticipate changes, and act with both precision and compassion. Slowly, he guided the colony to safety, using a combination of strategy, creativity, and intuition. He felt the satisfaction of solving a puzzle that had no obvious solution. The Queen's voice echoed in the room. "Excellent! You have not only succeeded, but you have done so with integrity, empathy, and courage. These are the qualities that matter most." He felt a mix of relief and pride. I didn't know I could do that," he admitted, still catching his breath. "You can," she replied. "Humans often underestimate themselves. That is why you must push boundaries, test limits, and embrace challenges. Your strength lies not in power, but in the mind and heart." He nodded, feeling a deep sense of respect and admiration for her. She was not just powerful, she was wise, patient, and insightful. She saw potential where others might see only flaws. And somehow she believed in him, even when he doubted himself. As the day ended, the Queen led him back to the observation room overlooking the stars. The galaxy stretched endlessly before them, a vast expanse of light and possibility. He stood beside her, feeling both small and infinite at the same time. "Tomorrow," she said softly, "we will explore the stars together. You will see civilizations, encounter challenges, and make decisions that will test all you have learned. But remember this, courage, kindness, and understanding are your greatest tools. Do not forget them." He nodded, feeling a sense of anticipation and excitement. The simulation had taught him much, but the real adventure was just beginning. For the first time, he understood the truth of the galaxy. It was vast, unpredictable, and beautiful. And for the first time, he felt ready to face it, not alone, but alongside a being who saw potential in him, who challenged him, and who respected him. The stars above twinkled faintly through the ship's windows, reflecting in the Queen's glowing eyes. He realized that he had changed. He was no longer just a human shouting jokes at a spaceport. He was a participant in a galaxy full of wonder, ready to learn, explore, and grow. The Queen's hand rested lightly on the console beside him, a silent acknowledgement of his progress. He felt a bond forming, not one of obligation, but of respect, trust, and shared curiosity. The journey ahead would be filled with unknowns, challenges, and discoveries, but he knew one thing for certain. He had the courage, the heart, and the mind to face it. And somewhere deep within him, he knew that his life would never be the same again. The next morning, he awoke with a sense of anticipation he had never felt before. The lessons on the Queen's ship had sharpened his mind and tested his courage, but today promised something different. Today, he would see the galaxy beyond simulations and holograms. The Queen had said they would embark on a mission, one that would take them to a neighboring star system, where new civilizations awaited. He dressed quickly, careful not to make mistakes, and hurried toward the observation deck. The Queen was already there, her eyes glowing faintly as she looked at the vast expanse of stars. The ship hummed softly beneath them, its engines ready for travel. "Are you prepared?" she asked, her tone calm, yet filled with authority. He nodded, trying to steady his voice. "Yes, I feel ready." "Good. We travel not just to observe, but to engage. You must remember all you have learned, observation, courage, and compassion. You will need them today." He felt a shiver of excitement. The idea of traveling to another system, meeting alien civilizations, and facing unknown challenges was thrilling. He had always dreamed of exploring space, But now he was doing so not as a visitor, but as an active participant, trusted by one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The Queen guided him to the control center, a room filled with glowing panels, floating displays, and soft hums of energy. She demonstrated the navigation systems, showing him how the ship moved through space, avoided hazards, and communicated with other vessels. He listened carefully, absorbing every detail. "Observation is key," she reminded him. "You will see more than most. Learn from everything, every movement, every signal. The galaxy speaks to those who are willing to listen." He nodded, feeling the weight of her words. He understood now that exploration was more than seeing new places. It was understanding them, connecting with them, and responding wisely. The ship lifted from orbit, and he watched as the planet below shrank into a distant point of light. Stars streaked past them as the engines engaged, faster than anything he had ever experienced. The sensation was exhilarating, and he laughed aloud, feeling the thrill of motion through the vastness of space. After several hours, they approached a system with multiple planets, each orbiting a bright sun. One planet in particular caught his attention. Its surface shimmered with crystalline structures, forests of towering, luminous plants, and rivers that sparkled with strange energy. The Queen brought the ship closer, descending toward a large city that glowed softly from within. "This is the city we will visit," she explained. "Its inhabitants are wary of outsiders, but not hostile. Your task is to observe, interact, and assist where needed. You may find that your human perspective is valuable here." He felt a surge of pride mixed with nervousness. "Me, why would they value a human?" The Queen's eyes glimmered faintly. "Because humans are unpredictable. They see solutions where others see only problems. That is why you are here." As they landed, the city's inhabitants paused to watch. They were humanoid but distinctly alien, with translucent skin and glowing patterns that shifted across their bodies. Their eyes widened as they noticed the Queen, and then the human standing beside her. Whispers rippled through the crowd, a mixture of curiosity and cautious respect. He stepped forward, trying to keep his movements calm and non-threatening. The Queen gave him a faint nod, and he took it as permission to engage. He greeted the inhabitants politely, attempting to mimic the respectful gestures the Queen had demonstrated. To his relief, they responded cautiously, their initial wariness slowly giving way to curiosity. A small group approached him, their glowing patterns shifting in ways he assumed were expressions of emotion. One of them, taller than the rest, spoke in a melodic tone that he could barely understand. The Queen translated softly, explaining that they were concerned about the city's energy supply, which had been disrupted by a recent storm in the upper atmosphere. He listened carefully, asking questions about the problem, observing the city's energy grids, and noting how the inhabitants moved and worked. Using his knowledge from the Queen's lessons, he suggested small adjustments to redirect the energy flow, alleviating pressure on the main conduits. The inhabitants followed his guidance cautiously, and to his amazement, the energy began to stabilize. The glowing patterns on their bodies shifted, a sign of approval and relief. The tallest being stepped forward, placing a hand near his chest in a gesture of respect. The Queen's eyes glimmered faintly, clearly impressed. "You see," she said softly, "your mind is valuable even to those far older and more advanced than humans. Your perspective offers solutions others might miss." He felt a warmth in his chest. The success was thrilling, but it was more than that. He realized that his human intuition, creativity, and problem-solving could truly make a difference in the galaxy. He had always wondered if humans were significant on the cosmic scale. Now he knew they could be. After helping stabilize the city's energy, the Queen led him through the streets. The inhabitants greeted them with cautious respect, offering food and drink that shimmered faintly with energy. He tasted it carefully, finding it surprisingly pleasant, a mix of flavors he had never encountered. The Queen watched him, her expression unreadable, but he sensed approval. As they walked, they encountered small challenges, creatures blocking pathways, delicate bridges that required careful crossing, and areas where the city's energy flow was still unstable. Each time, he applied what he had learned, thinking quickly and acting decisively. The Queen observed silently, occasionally offering subtle guidance, but allowing him to lead. By the end of the day, the city's problems were resolved, and the inhabitants had warmed to his presence. The tallest being approached him again, speaking words of gratitude that the queen translated. He bowed politely, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. The queen's gaze was on him, and for the first time he felt that she truly respected him not just as a guest, but as an equal in thought and action. As they returned to the ship, the queen spoke softly. "You have done well today. Observation, courage, and understanding, you have applied all three. These are qualities that few humans recognize in themselves. You are unusual, and that is valuable." He smiled, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. I didn't know I could do this. I didn't think humans could make such a difference." "You can," she replied. "You have only begun to understand your potential. The galaxy is full of challenges, but also opportunities. Those who adapt, who learn, and who act wisely can shape the future in ways others cannot." He felt a surge of excitement. He had dreamed of adventure among the stars, but now he realized that it was more than adventure. It was impact, influence, and growth. He was not just seeing the galaxy, he was becoming a part of it. Over the next several days, they continued their journey, visiting other cities and systems. Each encounter presented new challenges, negotiating with alien officials, assisting in technological repairs, observing social customs, and mediating disputes. He applied every lesson he had learned from the Queen, and each time his understanding deepened. Through it all, the Queen remained a silent guide, her eyes always observing, her presence a steadying force. She did not intervene unnecessarily, but her subtle guidance ensured he stayed on the right path. He began to understand her wisdom. True leadership and mentorship were not about doing everything for others, but empowering them to succeed on their own. One evening, as they rested in the observation room overlooking a nebula, he turned to the Queen. "I never imagined humans could do so much, or that we could be important out here." She regarded him, her eyes glowing softly. "Humans are remarkable. Few realize it, and even fewer embrace it. But those who do leave a mark on the galaxy. That is why I noticed you." He felt a mixture of pride and humility. Her words were not praise for pride's sake. They were recognition of potential. He had always felt small in the vastness of space, but now he understood that size did not determine significance. Actions, choices, and understanding did. As the ship traveled through the stars, he found himself thinking about home, about Earth, and about the possibilities that lay ahead. The galaxy was full of mysteries, challenges, and civilizations waiting to be understood, and he, a single human, was now part of it. The Queen spoke again, her voice soft but firm. "Tomorrow, we will visit a system where diplomacy is key. You will need to observe carefully, act wisely, and apply all you have learned. Your actions will influence more than you realize." He nodded, excitement and nervousness mingling. "I understand, I'll do my best." "Good," she replied. "Remember, the galaxy rewards those who are courageous, thoughtful, and kind. You have all three, do not forget them." That night, as he lay in the guest quarters, he reflected on the day. He had faced challenges that seemed impossible at first, yet he had succeeded. He had interacted with civilizations far more advanced than humans, yet his contributions mattered. He realized that courage, intelligence, and compassion were universal tools, not limited to any species. For the first time, he felt a deep connection to the stars, to the civilizations he had seen, and to the Queen who had guided him. The galaxy was no longer a distant dream, it was his reality. He closed his eyes, imagining the adventures yet to come. He did not know what the next system would bring, what challenges awaited, or what lessons he would learn. But he knew one thing for certain: he was ready. The stars outside twinkled faintly, as if acknowledging his determination. Somewhere out there, the galaxy awaited, full of possibilities and discoveries. And he, a human among many, had begun to prove that even the smallest beings could make a difference in the vastness of space. He drifted to sleep with a sense of purpose and wonder, knowing that the journey ahead would test him, challenge him, and inspire him in ways he had never imagined. And when he woke, the adventure would continue, a journey not just through space, but through potential, courage, and the boundless possibilities of being human in a galaxy of stars. The ship glided silently through the star-strewn void, its engines humming like a steady heartbeat. He stood at the observation window, watching the nebulae and distant planets drift past, feeling a mixture of awe and anticipation. This journey had changed him in ways he could not fully describe. He had learned, grown, and faced challenges he never imagined. And now, the final stage of their adventure was approaching, a diplomatic mission that could shape the fate of an entire star system. The Queen stood beside him, her presence calm but commanding. "We are approaching the Helleran system," she said, her voice soft but firm. "The civilizations there are advanced, proud, and cautious. You must remember everything you have learned: observation, patience, courage, and understanding. Your actions will be noticed." He nodded, feeling both excitement and a touch of nervousness. "I understand. I'll do my best." "You already have," she replied. "But today will test more than your mind. It will test your judgment, your empathy, and your ability to act wisely under pressure." As they entered the system, several planets came into view. One in particular shimmered with vast cities, networks of bridges and towers, and energy flows that glowed faintly in the atmosphere. From orbit, it seemed perfect, almost too orderly, yet he sensed complexity beneath the surface. The Queen brought the ship closer to the main city. "We will be received formally," she said. "Observe carefully, listen, speak only when necessary. The goal is understanding, not dominance. A human perspective may be unexpected, but it can be valuable." He followed her instructions closely as the ship docked at a floating platform above the city. The inhabitants were humanoid but strikingly different. Their skin reflected light in shimmering patterns, and their eyes glowed softly, shifting colors as they regarded visitors. Whispers passed among them, their attention drawn to the Queen and, unexpectedly, to him. He felt their curiosity but kept his composure, remembering the lessons he had learned. The Queen led him through a series of ceremonial halls, observing silently as the officials conducted their rituals. He marveled at the precision and beauty of their customs, noting patterns and subtle signals. He realized that diplomacy was not about words alone. It was about understanding behavior, intent, and emotion. They were finally brought before the Council of Elders, towering figures whose presence commanded respect. The Queen stepped forward, bowing slightly in acknowledgement. He followed her lead, standing tall but showing respect. The elders spoke in a melodic language he could not understand. The Queen translated softly, explaining that they were concerned about potential instability in neighboring systems and sought assurances that the Hellerans' way of life would remain secure. He listened carefully, observing not just the words but the expressions, gestures, and subtle shifts in tone. Drawing on his experiences, he offered suggestions based on logic, empathy, and insight. He proposed ways to strengthen communication, resolve disputes, and protect the environment of their system without imposing his own views. The elders considered his words, their glowing eyes flickering with thought. After a tense moment, one of them stepped forward, placing a hand lightly against his chest in a gesture of acceptance. The Queen's eyes glimmered faintly, clearly impressed. "You see," she said softly as they left the chamber, "humans are unpredictable yet insightful. Your perspective has value beyond what most realize." He felt a mixture of pride and humility. I didn't know I could help in this way. I thought humans were small in the galaxy." "You are small in size," she replied, "but your mind, your courage, and your heart can make a difference that many larger and older civilizations cannot. That is why you are here." For the rest of the day, they toured the city, engaging with various inhabitants, observing their technologies, and assisting with small challenges. Each interaction reinforced what he had learned. Humans could adapt, solve problems creatively, and inspire trust even among beings far more advanced. At one point, they came across a marketplace where small disputes had arisen over trade and resources. He stepped forward carefully, observing the behaviors of the parties involved. Using logic and empathy, he mediated a solution, balancing the needs of each group without imposing unfairly. The result was met with nods, gestures of approval, and even a faint smile from the Queen. She spoke quietly as they moved on. "You have done more than observe. You have acted wisely, influenced outcomes, and earned respect. That is rare for a human." He smiled, feeling warmth spread through him. "I never imagined I could do all this. I always thought humans were ordinary." "You are," she replied. "Ordinary by size, yes, but extraordinary by mind, heart, and courage. Remember this." As night fell over the city, they returned to the ship. The Queen guided him to a balcony overlooking the planet below. Lights shimmered like countless stars, reflecting off the rivers, towers, and bridges. He felt a sense of awe unlike anything he had ever experienced on Earth. The galaxy was alive, vibrant, and full of possibilities. "You have grown," the Queen said softly. Not just in skill, but in understanding. The galaxy is vast, but you have shown that humans can navigate it with wisdom and heart. You are remarkable." He looked at her, feeling a deep sense of gratitude and admiration. "I couldn't have done it without your guidance. You taught me to see, to think, and to act." She inclined her head slightly, a rare gesture of acknowledgement and respect. "We learn from each other. You reminded me that even the smallest beings can change outcomes in unexpected ways. That is why I noticed you from the very beginning." He felt a sense of pride and purpose. His journey had begun as a joke shouted into a spaceport crowd, yet it had led him to a path of learning, adventure, and discovery. He had proven himself not through force or violence, but through courage, intelligence, and compassion. The Queen remained silent for a moment, gazing out at the city below. Then she spoke again. "There is one more thing. You have shown that humans are not to be underestimated. Your presence here has forged connections, solved problems, and inspired trust. That is the mark of a civilization capable of greatness." He smiled, feeling a swell of hope. I want to do more. I want to help, to explore, to learn." "You will," she said. "The galaxy has many challenges, and it needs those who are willing to see beyond themselves. You are one of them." Over the next few hours, they prepared to leave the Helleran system. The Queen guided him through the controls of the ship, showing him how to chart a course, communicate with other civilizations, and monitor energy flows. He listened carefully, absorbing every detail, feeling more confident than ever. As the ship lifted from orbit, he looked back at the planet. The Hellerans had accepted him, valued his contributions, and treated him with respect. He realized that humans, though small and fragile compared to many species, could make a real difference in the galaxy. Intelligence, empathy, and courage mattered more than size or strength. The Queen stood beside him, her eyes glowing softly. "You have proven yourself human, not through might, but through wisdom, heart, and perseverance. That is why you matter." He felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The adventure that had begun with a simple joke had become a journey of growth, understanding, and discovery. He had faced challenges, learned from a being far wiser than himself, and contributed meaningfully to civilizations beyond his own. As they traveled through the stars, he reflected on all that had happened. He had seen strange worlds, met alien beings, and faced tests that challenged his mind and heart. Yet through it all, he had grown stronger, wiser, and more confident in his abilities. The Queen spoke again, her voice calm and reflective. "The galaxy is vast, full of unknowns and wonders. Few humans realize their potential among the stars. You have shown that courage, kindness, and understanding are universal tools. Remember them always." He nodded, feeling a deep sense of purpose. "I will. I won't forget." They passed through a series of nebulae, the colors shifting and swirling outside the observation windows. The sight filled him with wonder and inspiration. The galaxy was alive, vibrant, and full of endless possibilities. He felt connected to it in a way he had never imagined, and he understood that this was only the beginning of his journey. The Queen remained at his side, her presence both reassuring and inspiring. He realized that their bond was not defined by power or hierarchy, but by mutual respect, trust, and shared purpose. Together, they would explore, learn, and influence the galaxy in ways neither could do alone. As the stars stretched endlessly before them, he felt a sense of excitement for the future. There would be challenges, discoveries, and decisions that would test him further, but he knew he was ready. He had learned that being human did not mean being small or powerless. It meant having the courage to face the unknown, the intelligence to solve problems, and the heart to act wisely. The Queen spoke one final time, her voice soft but full of conviction. "You have proven that humans can matter in ways others cannot imagine. The galaxy is wide, full of life and opportunity. Go forward with courage, wisdom, and hope. That is your greatest gift." He smiled, feeling a sense of triumph, wonder, and possibility. The journey that had begun with a joke shouted across a spaceport terrace had led him to this moment, recognized, respected, and ready to embrace the vastness of the galaxy. He stood beside the Vampire Queen, looking out at the stars, knowing that the adventure was far from over. But he also knew this. He had grown, learned, and proven that even a human, small and ordinary in appearance, could leave a lasting mark in a universe full of wonders. And as the ship sailed through the endless sea of stars, he felt truly alive, ready to face whatever the galaxy had in store, and proud to be human among the stars.